So I started getting harassed around the time of the royal wedding. The moment that people knew I disagreed with some things about my sisters.
I grew up as an only child, and I wished I had siblings.
It's like everything. It's lie upon lie upon lie.
Hello to all my gorgeous, good-looking friends. You are tuning into TRG's series covering the Markle vs. Markle defamation lawsuit. If you are new to the channel, welcome. For those who are returning, thank you for coming back and supporting my work. I'm always grateful to have this like-minded community to discuss the beloved royal family and the cultural impact of its members on society, particularly in America. Okay, before I get into this, let me just put the disclaimer. I am not a legal expert. I am simply just reading what's in the public court files and giving my interpretation and observations/opinions. Please do your own research and come to your own conclusion. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Today, as you know, there was a hearing to discuss getting Samantha's case dismissed by Meghan and her lawyers. Smelly Hall, our favorite journalist from BuzzFeed News, was at this hearing and she was live tweeting. So what I would like to do is go through these tweets to ensure that she is not spreading additional misinformation as she normally does, because we know that she is very much sided with the Duchess. And I believe that this journalist was in violation of Local Rule 7.02 of the court because she was live tweeting this. And it specifically says rules for cell phones, laptops, cameras, etc. Local Rule 7.02 provides the court's policy regarding electronics in the courtroom. Now, let me pause there for a second. They weren't actually in a physical courtroom. They were in a virtual courtroom, but it was still a courtroom nonetheless. The rules still apply. It says, absent a court order permitting entry with electronics, no one except those authorized by Local Rule 7.02 may bring a personal electronic device beyond a courtroom security point. Photographing, recording, or broadcasting of any kind during a court proceeding is prohibited. So even if she was allowed to use her device, she was not allowed to be broadcasting any of this during the proceeding as it was going on. Now, we could argue and say maybe she did this on the break. Nope, she had been recording all throughout because there's a minute-by-minute, play-by-play that she was giving on Twitter. And if I were Samantha, I would have her lawyers contact the court and have this journalist barred from any future reporting or access to any of these court hearings, because what she has done so far in the past has been so detrimental, not only to Yankee Wally, but also to Samantha, because she was part of this smear campaign. Let's all not forget and remember that back in March of 2022, there was a coordinated campaign between Bot Sentinel, Ellie Hall, Jack Royston, in portraying Samantha as this person spreading all sorts of misinformation, when in fact, these reporters, as well as that publication, was filled with misinformation. The coordinated campaign resulted in specifically attacking Samantha and getting her banned off of various social media platforms like Twitter. Now, let's not forget that Ellie was part of amplifying that Bot Sentinel report. In fact, she was colluding with the CEO of Bot Sentinel to get that report together and was designed to discredit Samantha. Now, we all pretty much can guess who was behind paying those folks in putting together this plan and executing it. This journalist is a snake, and I don't trust her. If she broke the rules, then she needs to be called out on it and banned from having access in the future. So as you can see, she has all the documents up online. This Twitter account is public, so this is in the public domain. So we're going to start from the beginning, and I've included the timestamp so you can see that there was no break and that she was tweeting minute by minute. Again, let me repeat, Local Rule 7.02 specifically states broadcasting of any kind during a court proceeding is prohibited. Tweeting is a form of broadcasting. At 1:40 p.m., don't think that they spoke for 10 minutes and are now taking a break, but Ellie tweets again saying, we're starting with the request for judicial notice of, and this was in one of the documents that Meghan's team had filed around the court taking in consideration of 3 additional pieces of evidence that supports for the case to be dismissed. One of it was showing court records of Samantha using her former last name. Another was this YouTube video of an interview that Samantha did way in the beginning about being paid, but she really admits that she wasn't getting paid very much and that it was for live interviews, not for publications that happened in the newspapers. It was for live interviews. Megan also thought that it was a good idea to include or have the court consider including the full chapter of a problem like Samantha in Finding Freedom. So that was also put into this supporting documentation that she was asking for a motion to be granted in order for it to be applied to this motion to be dismissed. 7 minutes later, she tweets out, as a broadcast, Samantha's lawyer isn't objecting to anything except the 2016 interview wherein Samantha says she was compensated for talking to the press. Megan's lawyer agrees to drop it. Notice this journalist picks and chooses what she is broadcasting and her choice of words. She provides no context, but in reality, the reason why probably Megan's lawyers agreed was that the video or the interview that they're talking about that is being dropped actually helped Samantha, because Samantha was nothing but kind on the interview, as well as she was very clear that she got paid very little for live interviews, not published anything in print. The interview actually really helped Samantha, in my opinion. I will link that down in the description box so you can see for yourself. But of course, Ellie's not going to mention any of that because she's pushing a narrative for Megan. Next, 3 minutes later, Smelly broadcasts what the judge is doing and taking notice of. Next, at 1:59, Ellie tweets out that Megan's lawyer started off with statements about Samantha from the book Finding Freedom that are cited in the complaint. Says Megan didn't write or edit the book, and law equals the rule in defamation cases requires the defendant and no one else make the false statement. 1 minute later, Ellie gives us the play-by-play by saying, now we're moving on to the statements Megan made about Samantha in the 2021 Oprah Winfrey interview. At 2:04, Ellie points out that Megan's lawyers point out that Megan didn't actually say some of the things that Samantha claims she said in the Oprah interview a handful of times. Megan also didn't say that Samantha changed her name to cash in on her sister. Well, what Megan said on the Oprah interview was implied. So if they're going off of technicality, yes, that is correct, but it was implied in what she meant. Megan lacked any foundation for context around that, in which this was left for interpretation, which was by design. 1 minute later, Ellie broadcasts that primary argument from Megan's lawyers is that opinions are not and cannot be defamatory, and there are no objective standards to measure personal feeling. Well, I have to agree on one hand that yes, there's no objective standard to say what the relationship really meant to each other. One could have perceived the relationship to have been close while the other one absolutely detested the other, which is somehow what I'm getting from Megan, is that she absolutely hated Samantha and has distanced herself, almost rid her off as dead. But you can't deny the fact she was not raised as an only child. She had brothers and sisters, and that can be proven. So if she said she was raised as an only child, no, that's a bold-faced lie. It would have been different if there was any foundation or context given around that. She could have said, yes, I am the only child of Doria and Thomas Markle. That would have been enough. And let's not forget that Megan was given these questions ahead of time. Now you can bet that each one of those questions that she was responding to was carefully and methodically thought out, just as she did with that letter to People magazine. So the next play-by-play is 4 minutes later, and it says, okay, Samantha's lawyers are up. So 1 minute later, Ellie broadcasts, Samantha's lawyer says that words are defamatory when they subject a person to hatred, distrust, ridicule, contempt, disgrace, and injure their reputation/business. In this case, we got it all. Yes, that is true. All that happened to Samantha, including to what Ellie Hall contributed to in amplifying that. Let's not forget. Next tweet, Ellie says Samantha's lawyers bring up Meghan's admission to the UK court case after Jason Kanoff testimony that she knew he gave information to authors of Finding Freedom. Says Meghan has stated that she knew information was being provided to the authors, and that's good enough. 1 minute later, she tweets out, Judge questions Samantha's lawyers about how that constitutes publication. Well, let me just put this out there. Being that Ellie has in the past picked and choose what she wanted to say in defense of Meghan, how do we not know that she's not just picking and choosing what she wants to broadcast out as she's listening in this current proceeding in session at the same time? Next, Ellie tweets out, Samantha's lawyers argue that since Meghan knew it would be published in Finding Freedom, it should qualify under Florida law. Notes that nobody except Meghan could be the source of what the book says about Samantha. Samantha's lawyer, according to Ellie, says Meghan was lying and she got caught. Next, Ellie gives us the play-by-play by saying that they're pausing about the transcript regarding Oprah interview. 3 minutes later, we get the play-by-play. The judge has stopped Samantha's lawyer mid-argument because the Oprah transcript isn't there. And Meghan's lawyers say the complaint paraphrased what Meghan actually said. As you can see, we're relying on Ellie's interpretation, which is obviously biased. And the way that she's positioning this does give off the indication that Samantha's team and this case doesn't have very much substance. She says, Samantha's lawyers say they never claimed that the words in the complaint were exactly what Meghan said in the Oprah interview. Judge asks if it isn't important in the defamation case to have the exact words that were spoken. And you can see here that we can't trust what Ellie is saying because she is choosing to summarize this in a way that makes Samantha's case look inferior. And here we go. 1 minute later, Ellie chooses to pick a quote and summarize it, pull out certain things to where it states, it's not the strongest case in the world, but with discovery, ... It's not as if great harm hasn't been done to Samantha by Meghan Markle. Not even a minute passes, and Ellie tweets out, Meghan's lawyers are up to argue in favor of dismissal. 10 minutes later, Ellie sums up and says, Meghan's lawyers say Florida law excludes all Finding Freedom statements because Meghan didn't publish them and therefore aren't hers. He also says that Oprah's statements aren't defamatory. Asks court to dismiss the case. Next, Ellie felt the need to state that it was back to Samantha's lawyers, again, broadcasting this as the hearing is going on. 1 minute later, Ellie writes, Samantha's lawyers bring up the Sussex docuseries and says that if case isn't dismissed, they may supplement with the defamation that was stated in the show or file another lawsuit based on Netflix statements. Yes! I'm telling you guys, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and this is it. So I don't know, bring Netflix into the mix of it because I guarantee you that that's also going to be another shit show if they do that. Go, Sam. Go, Sam. Now that's a Pandora's box I'm sure Meghan doesn't want opened. Next, immediately after, she writes, Samantha's lawyer says that Meghan collaborated with the authors of Finding Freedom, which is more than just providing information. And yeah, that is true. I'm sure Ellie knows a lot about collaboration. Broadcasting live, play-by-play, judge stops him and says it's time to discuss the other part of the lawsuit, the injury that Meghan's defamatory claims have had on Samantha's life. I necessarily don't believe what Ellie is writing here. Anything that is not in quotes is actually what Ellie is positioning, so we'll just take this with a grain of salt. Allegedly, the judge warns the lawyers that she's struggling to see how, under Florida law, the finding freedom statements should be included based on what the law says about publication. Now, who really knows if this is accurate, according to Ellie Hall? Anything that Ellie Hall says has zero credibility. This is the only thing that I can say is factually correct. No decision was made. However, the motion to include certain elements of evidence in Megan's motion to dismiss were granted. That's all that really happened today. But anything else that this woman has tweeted out, take with a grain of salt unless you see the actual transcript to get the interpretation. We know that Ellie has pushed out so much propaganda supporting Meghan Markle and was a part of the core group of people who targeted Samantha in that smear campaign. So if anybody knows Samantha, I'm asking maybe if a few of you could go on to Paula's or Vidina's channel and maybe give them a nudge and let them know about this situation so they can amplify that to Samantha, since I know that they're in contact with them. I don't think Ellie should be allowed access to any more of these hearings because she's going to continue to keep undermining this case. And I believe that if she did it with Samantha in March by targeting her and writing that piece and writing a piece about Yankee Wally and the YouTube channels with false information, they should be concerned that we have this kind of journalist replaying events when she shouldn't have been. That's all I'm saying. Anyhow, what do you guys think? Leave your comments below. As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
It was such a fraud.